Hello, and welcome to the Total Mental Performance Podcast, the one and only mindset podcast dedicated to helping fitness entrepreneurs and coaches master their mindset, giving you insider access to industry leaders around their psychology, their campfire stories, and the mindset required to be successful in this business. I'm your host, Kyran, mental performance coach and founder of Total Mental Performance, the world's fastest growing specialist mindset service dedicated to the fitness industry. So, without further ado, let's lean in and listen.
Yes, team. Welcome to another episode of the Total Mental Performance Podcast. I'm going to be honest, this one's going to be a little bit uncomfortable because this is an insecurity audit. We're going to be talking about owning insecurity, then also understanding where does core confidence come from. First of all, let's talk about insecurity. The dictionary definition is not confident about yourself or your relationships with other people. And the quotes that I have here is, he's very insecure about his appearance and she felt nervous and insecure. Ultimately, insecurities are the soft spots that hurt when triggered. They're those parts where somebody might say something might happen, and it really, really gets to you. And logically, shouldn't really be a big deal, but deep down it is. And ultimately, all an insecurity is a judgment that we make about ourselves. It's something where we feel like we're not right. We should be different. This is not okay. I have this quality or this attribute, which means I'm not okay. So Ram Dass is a spiritual teacher, and I used to listen to him a lot, particularly when I was going through a difficult time. And he had this one thing that he said about trees, and I'm going to butcher the metaphor, but I'm going to share it in Kyran's version of what he said. And he says, if you look at trees, you don't look at a tree and judge a tree. You don't look at a tree and go, well, that's an ugly tree. Or, well, that tree's got some moss around it. That tree's got some broken branches or some moldy leaves. We don't think like that when we look at a tree. We just look at a tree and we just see nature. We just see how beautiful it is for just being a tree. But when it comes to human beings, we don't have that same love. When we look at human beings, it's always, they look like this. They sound like this. Maybe it might be on some of the things that they say. Maybe it's on their appearance. They're too skinny. They're too fat. I don't like the way that their face looks. And then we look at ourselves in the mirror and we start judging ourselves there. But my face isn't symmetrical. I should be bigger. I should have more muscles. I should be leaner. My bum should be bigger. Whatever. And when it comes to trees and it comes to humans, we're just unable to make that connection. We judge others. Now, why do we judge others? Part of it was our physiological and psychological evolution hasn't caught up with our environment. We were we were built to and evolved to survive in tribes of 50 to 100 people. But the world has changed so fast. Our environments have changed so fast. Our societies have changed so fast. Our physiology has not had time to catch up with the rate of change of what's happening in our environments. So it was really important socially that we were accepted by the tribe in order for us to survive. It was key for our survival because humans aren't the fastest. We're not the strongest. And arguably we're perhaps not even the smartest. It's our ability to use our teamwork. It's our ability to operate in tribes that's enabled us to grow, get faster and stronger. So that's why we can take judgment really seriously, particularly around our own insecurities. And I've had to deal with my own insecurities. So back when I was a boxer, I used to have a six-pack all the time. And if I didn't have a six-pack, I would be so insecure. It's almost like my value as a human being would be much lower. I also have wonky teeth that were punched in from the boxing. And I used to not smile in pictures. I used to try and hide my teeth all the time. And it really used to get to me. And if anybody used to comment on them, it used to trigger me so badly. But when you start to realize that, well, these are just qualities about me. That doesn't necessarily impact my value as a human being. It's just me. Just me being me. If you can own that, that can be the world of a difference. But when you get caught up in, I need to be like this. I'll be happy when I have this. When I have changed like this. You're putting your happiness, you're putting your productivity in the future. And that can help get you places, But for you to be consistent, for you to be happy, for you to consistently do what it is you know you're put here to do, that gets in the way. So we're going to just take a little insecurities audit. Doesn't matter if you listen to this and you're doing your steps, walking around, whether you're sat at home. If you're on your phone, if you're out and about on a walk, get out your phone, get a little notebook, get a notes app up, and just start to write down some of the answers to these questions out of 10. If you're at home, get on your notebook, get on your journal, and start to test these. So I want you to think about your appearance and your body image. Write down a scale of 0 to 10 how confident and settled you are. 10 out of 10 is easy, no problem, love it. 1 is I hate everything about me. 5 is somewhere in between. Which specific parts of your appearance, your body image do you not like? Don't run away from it. Get in touch with it. Feel it. Let any feelings come up. Don't be afraid to hit pause as I ask these questions. Next, think about your coaching. Is there anything about your coaching you feel insecure about? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel about your ability as a coach? 10 is, couldn't be any better. I'm the king. This is amazing. 1 is, I just have no confidence. I'm never going to be as good as everyone else. What is the point? 5 is middle of the pack, somewhere in between. Like, I have my good days, I have my bad days. Write down what parts of your coaching specifically are you insecure about? What is it you believe about yourself as a person to be true? Begin that sentence with I am, I'm not. Think about what's the opposite of that state. Really get in touch with these. Next, we're going on to money. A lot of people are insecure about money. Now, there's a difference between genuine survival struggles, like, holy shit, how am I going to pay my rent and pay for my food? And I need to make so much money that I validate my self-worth as a human being. 2 completely different puzzles. 10 out of 10 is, nope, money's got nothing to do with my self-worth. I could be skint or I could be a billionaire and it doesn't change a thing. 1 is, if I'm not making good money, my value as a human being feels much lower. I feel a lot more impacted. 5 is somewhere in the middle. In the topic of money, if you believe, what is it you believe about yourself to be true as a person? Begin that sentence with I am, or I'm not. That might be, I'm good with money and I will always attract it. It might be, I'm not worthy of making the money that I want. Then write down, what is the opposite of this statement? Next, I want you to think about relationships. So write down parts of relationships that you might have been insecure about. Thinking about what's happening. Thinking about what's going on. 10 out of 10 is, I'm never insecure about my relationships. My relationships is always good. A 1 out of 10 is, oh shit, I cannot be in relationships without feeling insecure, not good enough, worthy. 5 is somewhere in between. That's the middle of the pack. And ask yourself, what is it you believe about yourself as a person to be true? Begin that sentence with I am, or I'm not. Just think, what's the opposite of that statement? Because these are the lines of code that's driving these insecurities. Big questions, hard questions. Like I said, don't be afraid to pause this podcast, have a think, have a ponder, use this as an active workshop. But ultimately, it's time to forgive. It's time to forgive yourself for those judgments. It's time to forgive yourself for the attributes and the parts of you that you don't feel are enough and don't feel worthy. It's all about owning our insecurities. When we talk about core confidence, where does core confidence come from? It's from knowing all of our flaws, all of our insecurities, and actually embracing them. Not running away from them, not trying to change them, but just being with them. Doing the work, understanding where do they come from, what part of our conditioning, what part of our upbringing led us to feel like this. Because we all have insecurities. But we have to face our insecurities and we have to totally own them. If you want to be a leader, if you want to be a top coach, because leadership and coaching is all about helping others achieve a common goal, to get to where they want to get to where you want to get to. You can't lead if you're operating out of a base of insecurity, self-doubt, and fear. Humans pick up on that. Whereas when you work through those and you can be really vulnerable and own them, that's where the game starts to change. And just being in a place where we can call insecurities out ourselves. If we sense that we're being insecure, we can feel like that, being able to communicate that with us around us, or it's our partners, or it's our colleagues, saying, you know what, I'm not feeling great about this. I don't like this part about me. I'm trying to work on it. That can take away some of its power. If you're constantly putting up a front, people can always sense a front. And at the end of the day, we're all afraid of being weird. We're all a little bit afraid of that happening. So it's taken me a long time to find the place that I'm in right now with TMP, which is loving what I do every day. It's solving puzzles that I love. And it wasn't until a very good friend of mine and client of mine said, sounds like you found your calling. I said, I'd agree. And the way that I found it was through this concept or this topic of being weird, of not being enough. So me and my friend Dan, we were over in Croatia at a festival. And we bumped into two other guys that looked just like us, give each other a nod. You're right. They went, you're right. And we become best buddies for the whole festival. It was amazing. And one of the guys, he kept disappearing on the nights out for about 30, 40 minutes, and then he'd come back and he'd seem a bit nervous. This kept happening throughout the week. And then one night that happened and we all got split up. And I found him in the corner of this stage, kind of just almost hiding. And I said, hey, dude, what's going on? And he says, oh man, like I don't know, man. I said, well, like, relax, like, let's chill. And it was on a beach festival. And we went out and we sat on the beach. I said, what's going on? And he goes, man, I just feel so weird. Like, you three, just so comfortable in yourselves. Like, you know, you three will get on. I feel like I'm the weirdo. I feel like I'm the odd one out. I feel like I never fit in anywhere I go. And I hate it. What do you think? And I said, what do you mean? He said, do you think I'm weird? And I said, well, I'll be honest, yeah, I do. But also, I'm weird. And I'm a very, very odd guy, and I have very weird idiosyncrasies. But I think the difference between us both is I've settled into my weirdness. I've owned my weirdness. I've accepted that I am not normal. But if you can get to that place, you can really start to make a change. But as long as you try and fight these insecurities and these fears and this idea that I'm weird and I'll never fit in, you can't fit in anywhere else if you can't fit in yourself. And he went, wow, yeah, that makes sense. Should we get a beer? And yeah, we went and got a beer and had a great time for the rest of the festival. Then we were sort of chatting on text in our little group chat afterwards, but didn't really connect too much. Then the following summer, got a message from the two guys. It's like, you guys going to be on Ibiza? And I said, yeah, I'm going to be there with my girlfriend at the time. I was like, wow, when are you guys going? I was like, well, we're going on August. I was like, oh my God, so are we? I was like, well, we're going to be there on the 15th. They were like, that's the day that we get there. I was like, no way. So in the end, we all go on this night out. And before we go on this night out, he invites me over to have a few beers with him and some of his friends from his local town. And when he went down to the shops to go and get some beers, one of his best friends I'd never met before says, you Kyran? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you know, that conversation you had with him completely changed his life. And all of his other friends was like, yeah, he's never been the same since he came back. I was like, wow, really? They were like, yeah, like that. He's talked about you. He talks about that conversation, how he changed the game. And he come back sort of mid-conversation there because the condo shop was just downstairs. And he goes, yeah, man, that conversation really put me on the straight and narrow. I've been to therapy. I've done the work. I just understand that, yeah, I'm a bit weird, but we're all a bit weird, aren't we? And I said, we are. And it was in that moment I realized, wow, I want to have those conversations every single day. It was in that moment I realized that's where I want to be a therapist. That's where I want to be a peak performance coach. That's where I want to help others Just accept that. You can get to that place where you accept, yeah, I'm a bit weird in these areas and I don't feel comfortable, but that's okay. That will completely change the game more than anything else. And just learning to fall in love with your weirdness. Because insecurity and weirdness are part of the human experience. The more that you can own that, the more you can fall in love with that and understand that your weirdness is your unique advantage. That's where life starts to get really exciting. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to listen to this podcast and go, oh, all right, I'm done, owned it. You do have to do the work. Speaking to an expert and understanding where does that come from. Recognizing not only the personal opportunities that you can get from doing that work in your personal life, your families, your friends, your partners, and the productivity elements and the upside that you can see from that. Imagine how different you'd be professionally if you operated with much less insecurity, how much better decisions you'd make, how much more productive you'd be, how much more energy you'd have. It'd be so much better. Also, nobody can replace you being you. So when you own that, that's a really unique IP. You've got a unique set of experiences, a unique perspective on the world, and a unique message. We can't, particularly as coaches, can't replace you. You're so different. The clients that you'll attract will be very different to the clients I attract. The clients that you want to work with and I want to work with are very different. But it's only when you embrace that weirdness and you own that weirdness do you understand that, yeah, you know what? This is what I'm about and this is who I am. And no one can take that away from you. No one can take your market away from you. Because as long as you're being authentic, as long as you're being you, that's all that matters. Everything else is just an idea. Everything else is just noise. So embrace insecurity, embrace your weirdness, and in doing so, doing the work, you'll embrace your core confidence. That's it for me. Understand it's probably an uncomfortable podcast, but very, very, very necessary. So please, as always, do share the episode. Do share what you took away. Like, comment, subscribe, leave us some ratings. And if something is triggered in you and you think, actually, I really need to go and work on this, drop me a DM. My DMs are always open. And regardless as to whether that you do the work with us or whether we point you into the right direction, at the end of the day, as long as you're willing to do the work, life just completely changes once you work through this stuff. Big love, and I'll see you all next week.